Imagine a killer so obsessed with patterns that he treated human lives like a linguistic puzzle. In the annals of cold cases, there is a series of crimes that defies all statistical probability. It is a mystery where every victim and every location was chosen to fit a macabre alphabetical ritual. 3 young girls, 3 specific letters. The first name of every victim started with the same letter as her last name. But the terrifying anomaly is where they were found. Each body was discarded in a town that shared that same exact letter. It was a perfect bloody rhyme that the FBI couldn't stop. How did a predator in the pre-digital era find the perfect victims to complete this twisted alphabet? Was it a lone sociopath? Or was it a secret shared between 2 of the most infamous serial killers in American history? Tonight, we are reopening the files of a puzzle that has remained unsolved for over 50 years. Please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It is greatly appreciated. To understand the fear that gripped Rochester, New York in 1971, you have to understand the city itself. It was a place of industry and hard-working families, a place where children still walked to the corner store alone. But on the afternoon of November 16th, that innocence was shattered. 10-year-old Carmen Colon left her grandmother's house to run a simple errand at the pharmacy. She was a bright girl with a smile that could light up a room. But Carmen never made it to the store. Witnesses later reported seeing a young girl struggling inside a dark vehicle near the intersection. But in a world before cell phones and instant alerts, the trail went cold in minutes. The city mobilized. Hundreds of volunteers scoured the woods and fields. But 2 days later, the search ended in a way that no one could have predicted. Carmen's body was found 30 miles away, discarded in a gully. The location? A small, quiet town called Churchville. At first, the police treated it as a tragic, isolated abduction. But the veteran investigators couldn't shake a strange feeling about the geography. Carmen Colon, found in Churchville. The double C coincidence was discussed in hushed tones at the precinct, but most dismissed it as a statistical fluke. After all, the chances of a killer choosing a location based on a victim's initials seemed like something out of a pulp noir novel, not real-life detective work. However, the atmosphere in Rochester changed. Parents began locking their doors. The playgrounds went silent. For 16 months, the city held its breath, hoping the double C was just a haunting coincidence. They were wrong. In April of 1973, the alphabet killer struck again, and this time, he made sure the world knew that this wasn't a fluke. It was a signature. 16 months had passed since the tragedy of Carmen Colon. The police were no closer to an answer, and the double C theory had almost been forgotten. Until April 2nd, 1973. 10-year-old Wanda Walkowicz left her home to buy groceries for her mother. She was seen at a local market in Rochester, but she never returned. The following day, her body was discovered at a rest area on State Route 104. The location was the town of Webster. Wanda Walkowicz, found in Webster. The realization hit the Rochester Police Department like a physical blow. This wasn't a coincidence. It was a ritual. The double W confirmed the terrifying reality. There was a predator in their midst who was selecting his victims based on a twisted alphabetical logic. But the nightmare was far from over. Only 7 months later, in November 1973, the pattern repeated for a 3rd time. 11-year-old Michelle Mainza vanished after school. Her body was found 2 days later in the town of Macedon. Michelle Mainza, found in Macedon. The alphabet killer had completed his macabre trio: C, W, and M. The city of Rochester descended into a state of absolute hysteria. The police launched one of the largest manhunts in New York history. Over 800 suspects were interviewed. Every man with a history of violence or deviant behavior was scrutinized. Detectives were desperate. They began looking for anyone whose life revolved around letters: teachers, librarians, typesetters. They even consulted with linguists and psychologists to understand why someone would be so obsessed with this specific pattern. Was the killer a local who knew every back road and hidden gully in the county? Or was he someone with a profession that allowed him to travel unnoticed, scouting his victims and their final resting places with surgical precision? As the investigation deepened, the police focused on one man. A man with a dark past and a connection to one of the victims. A man who seemed like the perfect fit for the alphabet killer, until a shocking discovery changed everything. The investigation was overwhelmed by a sea of over 800 names, but one individual stood out like a recurring shadow: the first person of interest. He was a close relative of the initial subject, known for a volatile nature and a troubled past. Most suspiciously, shortly after the first event, he fled the state and was found obsessively cleaning his vehicle, as if trying to erase any trace of a journey he shouldn't have taken. Before authorities could secure a definitive statement, he was gone. For many, the file was unofficially closed. But then, the unthinkable happened. The pattern continued while he was no longer a factor. The shadow was still out there, watching the investigation from the darkness. It wasn't until decades later, in 2011, that the files were ripped open by a shocking discovery thousands of miles away. Enter a professional photographer who had lived in the region during the 70s. When authorities searched his new residence, they found a catalog of secrets. Inside was a handwritten diary detailing dozens of encounters. But the most chilling discovery was a series of professional photographs of individuals who shared a striking resemblance to the original subjects. Federal investigators noticed that his other known cases followed the exact same alphabetical signature. He was eventually held accountable for those later events, but he remained silent about the past. This led to one final theory that still haunts detectives: a man involved in other notorious national cases who was born in the same city and lived there during those exact years. Did a dangerous path begin in those streets before moving across the country? Every time the authorities got close to a definitive answer, the physical evidence seemed to vanish. In that era, modern forensic technology was a dream of the future. By the time it arrived, the records had been compromised or lost to time. The entity behind these acts hadn't just outrun the law, they had outlived the evidence itself. Beyond the patterns and the cold geographical data, there is a human tragedy that time hasn't been able to heal. Every time we look at the alphabet, we are reminded of 3 young lives that were turned into a macabre puzzle. It's a chilling thought, that someone could be so calculated, so devoid of empathy, that they treated a city map as a canvas for their darkest impulses. The investigation into these files has deeply impacted our team. As we delved into the records of the 70s, we felt the weight of a city that lost its innocence. There is a specific kind of frustration in these cold cases, the feeling that the truth is right there, hidden behind a lost DNA sample or a witness who took their secrets to the grave. Was it a professional traveler, an insider with a badge, or a shadow that simply vanished into the mist of history? We may never have a name to put on the file, but we refuse to let the memory of these victims fade into silence. This story touched us deeply during our research. It is one of those cases that stays with you long after the lights in the studio go down, a mystery that remains without a culprit, defying justice for over half a century. We are committed to this investigation, and we will bring you any new information or breakthroughs as soon as they emerge from the shadows. Thank you so much for watching until the very end. We put a lot of heart into every video we create for you. Discovery Vault wishes you a wonderful day.